You can have your prescriptions brought to your door with 1 to 2 day delivery from your local CVS. Get same-day delivery, or just swing by and pick them up on the way home from the doctor. While you're here, get your questions answered and put your mind at ease, because there are still some things that you just can't get in a cardboard box. That's how healthier happens together with CVS. Not all prescriptions eligible for delivery. Restrictions apply. Visit cvs.com/delivery for details.
You've dreamed of building a family, but the journey hasn't been easy. I'm Dr. Laura Shaheen, a reproductive endocrinologist helping people build families every day. On our new podcast, Baby or Bust, we'll be learning from both reproductive experts and people who have faced challenges just like yours. Join us every week for Baby or Bust, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to follow us so you never miss an episode.
Welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. I'm Danny Sheriff, your host, certified fertility awareness practitioner, functional nutrition counselor, and founder of the HA Society, and of course, an HA recovery coach who has walked where you currently are walking. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. So let's dive in. But last thing, nothing on the show should be taken as medical advice, so please seek the advice of your physician. We have been working with women one-on-one to get their periods back for well over a year, and it's been really effective. We strongly believe that you need a individualized custom recovery protocol that goes across nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, exercise, the whole thing. And we believe in that a lot. We're not really willing to waver from that. But what we have been doing up until now is only offering video-based coaching. And we've been hearing from you guys that that's great, but doesn't work for everyone. So we want to implement this new trial of email-based only coaching. So no scheduling, no Zoom calls. It's all through email. We do a weekly check-in, so you'll send us an email once a week with all of your details, what was working, what's not working. We'll make tweaks and changes to the plan. We'll also get you on track with learning to use the fertility awareness method to track progress. You'll get a customized program. We'll be basically holding your hand through the whole process, and you'll also be able to chat with us as much as you want, or to your assigned coach as much as you need in between these weekly official check-ins. So who is email-based coaching for? It's for anyone who is going through HA recovery, trying to get their period back. It's for anyone who has had a recovery period or 2 or 3 and is looking for help optimizing or getting pregnant or getting back to training and trying to ensure that training isn't getting in the way of their menstrual cycle. We're all about custom goals here, and everyone's an individual and everyone's life is individual. And so we want to work with you to reach whatever goal you have in a way that works with your lifestyle and your mindset, all while helping you to have a solid, healthy relationship with food, with your body, with your exercise. That's our whole mission. So if that's your mission, come and join us. We'd love to work with you at thehasociety.com/coaching. Go there, hit buy now, get started, and I'll immediately send you your intake forms, and we can get started with your goals right away. So that's thehasociety.com/coaching.
I guys bring this thing over to me. Hey guys, and welcome back to the HA podcast. Exciting episode today because we have our co-coach Ashley Smith rejoining us again. Hey Ashley.
Hey.
So we just finished up this mental hunger mastery workshop a couple weeks ago now, and in the process of preparing for it, we had people submit essentially questions and thoughts and concerns that they have around hunger and HA so that we can kind of make sure that we hit on each of those areas. And people just we just really liked the questions and thought it would make a really good podcast. So, good business people know how to maximize all of their content. But they were really good questions that were submitted. So we just kind of are going to go through them together and share with you guys our thoughts and let you sort of just pretend you're in the room having a conversation with us about all these things. Sound good?
And I'm sure that they actually have similar thoughts and questions. So we're really hoping that it eases their mind or answers their questions.
Exactly. So for any of you who are new to the show, Ashley and I we both work with people with HA. We coach them inside of the HA Society. We take on clients. So I'm a coach, Ashley's a coach, and together we bring you this episode. So let's just dive straight in. Question number 1. How do I wrap my head around following my hunger cues if I'm scared of gaining weight and thus don't want to eat too much because I no longer have a perception of what the right portion for me is?
This is my favorite. It's complex and simple all at the same time. So we're going to break this question down into the first part, into the second part. So I may need you to remind me after I answer the first part. Okay. So actually, I'm going to address the second part first. So it's talking about what is the portion size that's correct for me. So right there, I want us to see that we are seeing a major disconnection from our body. Right now, we are saying I need an external source, which is true to a degree, to tell me how much I need to eat because I don't trust listening to my hunger cues. And underneath that layer is because I potentially believe that my body is not trustworthy. I cannot trust my body to tell me how much I need to eat because we are afraid of gaining weight. Now, I'm not saying that this fear is like I can't believe it's happening. Most of America has, most women have this fear. But I want us to see that we are now making decisions based on fear and not based on healing, right? So if I was to make a food decision based on healing, then I would listen to my hunger cues and allow myself to eat to satiety rather than I need to know upfront what my portion size is. So I want us to kind of think about from our dieting days, we would say, look here, body, you're going to eat this amount of food at this time, and you're going to feel satisfied. And so that's where the disconnection comes, is when we started to tell our body, no, you will be full off of this amount of food because I need you to produce this result, which is weight loss. So a lot of this anxiety comes from us fighting our body. So I need you to remind me of the first part of this question.
Yeah. So how do I wrap my head around following my hunger cues if I'm scared of gaining weight?
Right. So right there, this is something that Danny and I talk about all the time, that this is a season where we must give up dieting, right? Like we have got to eventually come to terms that I cannot diet my way through this. I need to enter this into a time of healing, meaning that if we are worried about gaining weight, that is always going to impact our portion size and our mindset and create mental hunger because we are constantly living in a mental restriction and a physical restriction. So the first step to this is I'm going to be neutral towards gaining weight because I know that gaining weight is the only thing that's actually going to heal me. My body needs additional fat in order to turn back on my reproductive system. I cannot supplement my way out of this. Yes, I do need to rest, but that's not the only thing. Yes, I can meditate, but I cannot meditate, supplement, or rest my way out of this. I have to be doing all three, and it has to include gaining weight to some degree.
Yeah, I I guess not that surprised that I was having this conversation just this morning with a client. So shout out Julia, if you're listening. We basically, she's been experiencing lots of things, like being extremely tired, and also feeling like extra hungry in the evenings. And well, sorry, she's experiencing intense tiredness. It's like these waves of exhaustion. And I asked her, like, well, what do you think that it could be? And she thinks that, it could be when I have this snack in between my walk and my yoga session, I don't eat the whole thing, and maybe I should eat the whole thing. And when I get to dinner time, I'm actually really quite hungry, and so I'm snacking while I'm eating, so while I'm cooking, and so maybe I'm not eating enough during the day at this point. And it's like, wow. And then she's like, well, so what do you think? I'm like, well, it's so interesting that you basically just gave a really good answer. So you have this knowledge inside of you. You can actually see these areas for opportunity. You're not like completely dumbfounded by the whole thing. So what is it actually that's making you choose to continue questioning it instead of acting on it? And so we dove into that. We go into these, or I think a lot of us go into these conversations thinking we're going to get an answer of, oh yeah, you should eat X amount, yada, yada. But actually what we need to check in on is, well, you have the answer, so why aren't you acting on it? And this kind of comes to the hunger cue thing a lot, because she knows that she's hungry. She knows that that there's opportunity for her to eat more, and she hasn't maximized every single one of those opportunities. And in that moment, we were able to break it down to like, okay, it's a fear of weight gain. And what does weight gain equal? Well, weight gain equals not being worthy, essentially, is like where we got to. And so my just other perspective on this question of like, how do I wrap my head around following my hunger cues if I'm scared of gaining weight? You've kind of answered your own question.
Yeah. So a lot of times we want a prescriptive method of like, okay, well, how do I like solve this? I need a formula to solve this, when really it's pulling back layers of our core lies about gaining weight. Right now we have a core lie that gaining weight is the worst thing possible, and it's going to be the death of me. I'm going to be so uncomfortable. It's, like, I'm not going to be me anymore. It's going to be all these things. While some of that we definitely have to wrestle with how much truth is in there, because sometimes there is some truth in there. And sometimes we have to wrestle with, actually, the core truth is you're going to heal your body, right? So it's really fleshing out this core lie with truth in order to move forward in a particular situation like this, right?
Exactly. I think that you'll just keep searching for the answer that you want to hear,
You'll keep circling. You'll keep circling and not move any, like, you won't move forward. You'll just be moving like side to side, but you're not gaining any ground.
Yeah. Yes. Precisely. I have a YouTube video. It'll be out by the time this episode airs. So I kind of going through like a bunch of things that are stressors that you don't realize are stressors. And one of them is like looking for an answer that basically tells you that you don't have to do a certain thing that you're afraid of. Mm-hmm. So I put like a request out for topics to do a video on the other day. And two of the questions were from the same person. And they were, is it possible for me to is it possible to have a healthy period at a low BMI? And is it possible to get your period back if you don't, without having to gain weight? Like the way the question is worded is almost like trying to get me to give you the answer that you want. And it's funny that that was the topic she wanted it to be, but instead, like, the topic became one of the answers to the topic that I ended up choosing, which was like looking for answers to that you want to hear constantly is actually more stressful and holding you back more so than if you just said, okay, I'm just going to go with what the majority of people are saying they can see is working for me. And for some reason, people with an external view of your situation can often see it more clearly than you can. So if everyone's telling you, well, you probably are actually ignoring your hunger cues and you just have these stories around why you have them, then that's probably true.
Oh yeah. An objective point of view is priceless. Like it really, and I think even in HA recovery, it's because like what the like answer that you're searching for is validation that you are the unicorn. And unfortunately, that's not going to help you move forward in healing. You know what I mean? So yeah. And it can cause a lot of stress because especially when you're not a unicorn, striving to be the unicorn in this situation is a lot of work with no payoff.
Yes, I like that.
That is very frustrating and mentally exhausting, emotionally exhausting, which then impacts us physically. So we can spend all this time trying to be a unicorn in the HA world, and spin our wheels. And even to the point, I do think that's helpful because then you do get to the point where you're so tired that you just finally like, I'm going to do the thing. You know what I mean? So it serves a purpose, but it's going to be painful mentally during that time.
Yeah, it is. And I have compassion for people who really feel like they have tried everything and maybe they actually are a unicorn. But I can tell you it's probably more just a blind spot, just like a really big blind spot that you still have. And those are really hard to find without an objective third-party person. Yeah. Okay. Another question. I'm trying to pick. It is kind of like a statement, but listening to hunger, but having to eat a minimum and then leading to overeating. Sorry, doorbell. I don't know what this means. You know what this means?
Read it one more time. I do think there's something in there.
Listening to hunger, but having to eat a minimum and then leading to overeating.
So yes, meaning that I'm listening to my hunger cues, but I'm still forcing myself to eat the minimum. And therefore I feel like I'm overeating. So if that is correct, then I do get where this is coming from. So right now, overeating is going to feel like anything above dieting. That is just our current perception. If it is a portion size bigger than so think about how long people have been dieting, right? Or just been mindful of their portion size, right? It's probably more than a year. If you are that chupacabra who has not been dieting in like the world, then I want to meet you because I want to just kind of hang out. You know what I mean? But more than likely, all of our portion size have been skewed to fit a dieting mold or close to a dieting mold. Therefore, now whenever we need to eat to nourishment, it is always going to feel like overeating because it's more than dieting and because dieting has become our norm. So again, I think if we accept, hey, my filter is skewed because it has been trained to diet consciously and subconsciously, it allows us to, because think about even overeating tends to have this bad vibe about it. Like, I can't believe I'm overeating, right? And the only reason why we have this vibe about overeating is because then I'll gain weight and then I'll be blank, blank, and blank. So that's where the people really need to fill that out. If I overeat and I gain weight, then blank, right? That's the fear. So basically right now, I would encourage that person to reframe, meaning I am eating portion sizes that lead to healing. They may feel like overeating, but it is just simply because I'm exiting the diet cycle.
Yeah, I don't think you can really expect to go into recovery from a diet cycle and not feel like you're eating in some kind of wild excess. If you don't feel that way, you're probably not eating enough. So
Yeah.
it's for most people, it's going to feel a bit jarring and totally counterintuitive. And so it makes sense that you're going to feel uncomfortable and that you're going to feel, you're going to place negative labels on it, like I'm overeating or I'm binging. And that was something that Ashley really talked a lot about in the workshop that we did do, which was like, a lot of us are saying we're binging, but actually we're probably just eating a lot more than we were before. And even if some people are like, even if you are going absolutely ham on some stuff, and having like, I don't know, like 3 pieces of cake or something that I think we can all say is like objectively a lot of cake. It's like a temporary thing that's happening because you're coming out of a diet cycle. And you just can't expect to go from being stuck in this like diet space for a really long time to just eating perfectly normally. You kind of have to go through this stage where suddenly your brain is like, what? We have unlimited access to food now? Oh my God, I'm going to capitalize on this, because what if it's temporary? And you have to let it get used to the fact that it's not temporary. You get to eat food now when you want it, and it will start to become normal. And I resonate a lot with this person, actually, because I often feel like, oh, wow, I ate a lot today. And then I have to sit there and think about like, well, what does that mean? Why do I think that? Is that even true? It's actually often not true. If any of you if any of you feel that way all the time, I get a journal out sometimes and I write down the things that I ate, just to show myself like, you're allowing your brain to tell you this, but you actually have the evidence to show that you're just eating a normal amount of food.
Yeah. And I think that if I was to create a toolbox for somebody entering HA recovery, it would be to acknowledge that you are functioning with a skewed mindset and filter when it comes to food and your body, simply because you've been undernourished and science shows that your brain has changed. You know what I mean? So if I can walk into this situation accepting that truth, then that means that I could be mindful of all these thoughts and be like, but is that true? Is that what's really happening? And I think that's kind of one of the biggest works that we do as a coach, is to bring that back of, do you think that your mindset is accurate right now? Like, do you think that you are truly functioning in reality, or do you think that it's been skewed for multiple reasons?
Are you listening to this show hoping to get some golden nuggets to help you on your way to recovery? Well, great. I hope that you find them, because that is exactly what this show is for. But if you really want to take your recovery all the way, completely commit and get on track with your goals, whether they be finally feeling overall healthy, finally getting pregnant, or finally getting back to training, you'll want to join us inside of the HA Society. Not only is this the perfect community to ask questions and get your support and the accountability that you so often need during these uphill battles with body image and understanding nutrition and incorporating exercise, but it's also a hub of exclusive resources for HAs. All of the HA podcast episodes are released in advance and completely ad-free, so you can listen on the go to the raw, unedited versions, uninterrupted. All of the one-on-one coaching calls, of which we have 2 a week in different time zones, are uploaded to our private podcast feed so that you can listen to events with practitioners and the past community calls as though they were bonus podcast episodes, because I know how much you love to listen to this kind of stuff. And in these calls, we cover requested topics like overcoming the weight gain fears, communicating with friends and family about our HA, diving into how HA works, and debunking the imposter syndrome that so many of us have around this diagnosis. There's also an entire resources section with lectures, workshops, and training from the past events that are hosted by experts like Sarah Liz King, Laura Lyons, Kaylee McDevitt, Holly Dunn, and many more. As a member, you also get direct access to myself and Coach Ashley in the DMs. So if you have personal questions or need individualized advice about your recovery, we're in there answering your questions in the DMs, as are all of our other members in the group who impress me week after week with how they show up for each other. It's incredible. It's like women are just all becoming mini coaches for each other. It's so good. The HA Society is really the place to be if you're going through recovery, no matter what stage you're at. Whether you have HA or you've got a few recovery periods, we have your back and we're all your new best friends. So come and meet us at thehasociety.com/join. That's thehasociety.com/join, and the link is in the show notes for you. Okay, on with the show.
It's all right. Let me a long, uncomfortable pause because I muted myself. Started talking. Okay, next one. How do I regain my appetite and hunger?
Yes. So that is something that I want us to realize that during HA recovery, intuitive eating, it's great to start intuitive eating, but it for some may not be possible to fully only use that as a, well, I don't feel hunger, because right now our hunger cues have been impaired for so long. So I probably wouldn't use an impaired signal to help me recover. Just like I probably wouldn't use a broken car to help me get somewhere, right? And so I really think that it means just taking care of it, meaning that I need to retrain it. So this means that whether I'm hungry or not, I am going to wake up and I'm going to eat breakfast within an hour, right? Because at some point it may be 1 or 2 years down the road. And so again, I think sometimes we think that, oh, I've done this for 5 days. How come this hasn't happened by week 2, right? So if then by 2 years down the road, you've already passed recovering your period, you are working on maintaining and just living life, and then all of a sudden your hunger cues start coming back up, it may take that long, but it is being committed to taking what we know and moving forward and acknowledging what we feel. Meaning, I acknowledge that I do not feel hungry, but I know that I need to eat in order to break this fast from sleeping. And I know I need a balanced meal for my blood sugar levels. So I may not feel like it, but there's a lot of things in life that we have to do that we don't feel like it. So I think by leaving this area of our life up to our feelings is very wonky and is strongly what got us into HA.
Love your work. Okay, at some point, all of these questions are going to end up, I guess, with the same answer, but let's see.
It happens.
It does. Well, okay. So what you just said, this one piggybacks off it. So for the days that I have no appetite or low hunger cues, how do I go about eating? So I don't know, tactically, what do I do?
I think that, so one practical things that you can walk away with is, do I have a fat, protein, and carb on my plate? Like that is just the first checklist. Like, I mean, like there is literally no hormones are happy without that. So it is literally one of these things like no one gets to skip this and have happy hormones. You're not a unicorn. No one's been the unicorn in this. Like this isn't happening. The next thing would be, okay, I naturally served myself. I'm going to now use what I know and add a serving to each thing, like a half a serving. So now I have 1.5 servings, right? So you've gone ahead and already dished up what you think is great. Now I need you to just put another half serving of each of the things on there. You know what I mean? Like, this is just a way of not losing our mind and making sure that we're eating more. The other thing that I would make sure is get rid of all the volume foods. You are, again, there's very few, but not many people are going to be able to eat whole foods and crush this much food in order to recover, right? Because we tend to need to go into a surplus in order to kickstart things, and then it kind of dwindles down past that. But also, I would really lay off any diet foods. And so we do have something coming out eventually in 2022 about, are you secretly still dieting by adding certain diet foods? Like, this could be a fiber wrap. We don't need a fiber wrap if you are trying to gain weight in order to restore your cycle. So really taking those things out and allowing more calorie dense things. So that doesn't mean junk food, but it doesn't not mean it either. So yeah.
I'll chuck some tools at you guys. So you mentioned the thing that we're going to do in 2022 about this, but we also have a podcast episode that will be out already, December 15th, episode 80. Ashley and I talk about this exact thing of like, eating more food doesn't necessarily mean you're eating enough. The episode is called "Is Eating Enough Enough?" I really like it. And also, so I've done an updated 7-day HA recovery challenge. And in that one, on the very first day, I go through some nutrition fundamentals with exactly what Ashley just said, which is like, okay, let's use the palm method to build our plate here and then add some, right? So anyone who's heard about the palm method, it's like a palm size of protein, a fist size of carbs, 2 thumbs of fat, like whatever it is. Let's take that principle and add extra, because that principle is to help people like maintain weight and to eat for just like longevity. But we're here trying to eat to rebuild something that's undernourished and needs additional food. So yeah, the palm fist thumb method, that plus an extra half a serve minimum, you know, of each of those things. And yeah, building your plate, protein, carbs, fat, you just do that every day, regardless of what your hunger cues are saying. I think like that question of how do I eat if I'm not hungry? Well, unfortunately, you eat, and hopefully it will you know, pick back up as soon as it can. But
yeah, absolutely. And so it is like retraining, and think about like, you should be hungry every like 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. Like, you know what I mean? Like you should have this little internal clock that goes, oh, but most of the time, we tend to think that that's going to derail us. Therefore, I can't possibly do that.
Nice. I also have a bit of a cough. My child has brought from daycare. And so I have to mute myself to cough and survive. Okay. How much time do we have? We bust out another one.
Yeah.
We have a call after this. I'm gonna make a coffee on my new espresso machine. Oh my gosh, lucky last. Who's it gonna be?
Yeah, and also not drinking coffee throughout the day. I know that's kind of a basic, but not saying that, Danny. You know what I mean? But
no, do as I say, not as I do. Like, dude, yesterday I accidentally, and I say accidentally because it's been a really long time since I made coffee professionally.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, but I accidentally made myself 3 double shot espressos. And like, I forgot that I used to split my shots, and I was not split. Like, and so I woke up at just before midnight. I did go to sleep at like 8:30, but woke up just before midnight because my baby made like one sound. You know, when they make this one sound, but then they go back to sleep. But you think that they're gonna wake up soon, so you can't go back to sleep. So that happened. And then I just stayed awake till about 3:30 a.m.
Horrible. And so we're going to use it as a teachable moment, meaning that, okay, so she did this one time. It's not going to derail her now that she is like postpartum and like recovering and stuff like that. But when this is a lifestyle, when this is a lifestyle, right? When this is something that you're like, I just love coffee and it's all day. So I'm actually glad that we brought this up, because think about coffee winds up suppressing your appetite. And so if you're drinking coffee all day, what you're doing is training your body to be suppressed, like your appetite to be suppressed all day. Right. So then like we get to this place of wondering, oh, why do I not have hunger cues? Well, we've done all these behavioral things to train our body. And so that's just a great moment of, there's potentially a lot more things that we have done that have trained our body to not have hunger cues, and therefore we are able to go in the opposite direction.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, I just don't have period right now because I'm postpartum, and I'm absolutely letting myself slip back into like, well, I can have a coffee because there's no physical evidence to show to me that there's a problem. But I know when I sneak a third espresso shot into my day that things aren't like, I'm not stupid. I'm just making a stupid choice. But yeah, no, don't do that. Especially when you're underfed. And if you have been trying for a long time, and like, just give quitting coffee a go.
Yes.
Totally. It'll help with your, just give it a red hot go. I know it's hard if you love it as much as me. Trust me. I had to do black tea for like 3 months instead of having coffee, and that was a really hard time for me. So if I can, you can. All right, ready. Last one. Oh, they're so good though. How do we prioritize recovery without it getting in the way of our daily lives and activities? How do we know when we should eat, especially when we have anxiety around it?
Yeah. So how do we prioritize? Read that again. That's so good. These are like meaty questions.
Yeah, I know. They are really
They're great. They're great.
We could do like emails, or we could do Instagram captions and answer them or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Okay. How do we prioritize recovery without it getting in the way of our daily lives and activities?
Okay, pause. So so one of the things is, I want us to realize that we tend to assume that it's going to take up our entire life only because dieting has taken up our entire life. Therefore, we assume that going in the opposite direction is going to take up that much time. And I would actually argue that the act of recovering is not what's taking up time. Like adding an extra egg is not what's taking up time. Grabbing a snack in your bag and eating it is not taking up more time. Having 2 slices of bread instead of 1, or simply having bread instead of a fiber wrap, is not taking up more time. What is taking up more time is the mental hang up that we have about gaining weight. So again, this circles back to, what do you believe about gaining weight? Are you willing to say, at this moment? So I had like this breakdown moment while I was recovering. And the biggest thing was, nothing was going to heal me unless I gained fat. Fat was going to be the thing that healed me. And so I wasn't like joyous over it, right?
No, take my eyes, but don't make me gain weight.
Take anything you want. But once we accept that fat in this situation is healing, then we can move forward and eat that extra piece of toast. We can move forward and eat that extra egg. We can do all these things. We can do it. Doesn't mean that we're pumped about it, but it does mean that I'm moving forward and I'm spending less time in that stuck phase, right? So I would actually say that more importantly, it is your mental hang-up that is eating up your day, not the act of recovering.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, we say this all the time, right? The act of doing what you need to do to get your period back is really quite easy.
Yes.
It's just the mental hangups that are like in your way constantly.
Which is almost like the slap in the face, because it is so easy on paper, but it is the mental hang up. And that's why Danny and I are passionate of what we do, because the science is still the same.
Yeah. I remember when I was doing my fertility awareness mentorship, I was the only one in the group who worked specifically with people with HA. So it was like the only one in the group who did period coaching for people without periods. And so it was really cool to be on that like interesting perspective, but I would have other people in the class confused. It's just like they're typically older as well. So like they didn't have the exact issue. They were like 40s, 50s, 60s midwives and stuff like that. But they were just like, well, why don't they just eat? Why don't they just do it?
Yeah, I listened to a podcast, and this I think she was a fertility awareness instructor, and I remember on her podcast she was like, I just don't get why anybody would undereat. And I'm like, yeah, I totally see your point, but that's the whole hang up, is that there's many of people who have been stuck in the cycle of undereating for multiple reasons: worth, identity, body, job, false confidence, blah, blah, blah. Right. So there's all these things. Right. And yeah.
Mang.
Yeah. That's why we're here.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's do one rapid one and then go make snacks. Okay, one rapid one. How do I stop thinking about food or mentally planning my whole day of eating?
Yes, that's so good. I think in the beginning, so this is like any other skill that you've had to learn. I think it's unrealistic to think that in the beginning it is going to take some time. Just like you were willing to dedicate time to dieting and learning and doing all these things, are you willing to dedicate time to not dieting? Right. I think this kind of reflects the fact that if it doesn't produce weight loss, then it's not worth my time. Right. And so I think that mentality is creeping up. So that's a diet mentality that is creeping into your recovery season of life. And so therefore, I think we do need to come to terms that in the beginning, it is going to take us sitting down, possibly working with a coach, taking pictures of your food so I could see what you're doing, and then give you simple feedback like, hey, add this, add this, add this, add this, add this. And so that will take time, and it will take practice remembering to bring a snack with you. It will take some adjusting in your schedule of getting ready for work by making breakfast. You know what I mean? So, but I want us to pause and think, like, is this time that I'm spending on my health, is that time not well spent? And is it not an investment to sustainable hormonal health bazillions of years down the road? Okay, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Until you hit menopause, and then we still got to take care of ourselves. Long story short, this is time invested. Again, the time, I don't think you have a problem with that. I think the issue is I hate how much time is being taken up mentally to navigate this. So I think that's the heart of the question. And that's real. So one of the things is, have you come to terms with weight gain? Unfortunately, I think all the questions linked back to that.
That's what I mean, but it's different.
It's good.
How do I stop thinking about food or mentally planning my whole day of eating? I mean, yeah, like in short, you just stop doing it, right? Like there's no special trick to get you to, like, we can't tell you to tie your hands behind your back and like not plan food and play music really loud so that your brain doesn't think about anything. Like that's not, you know, obviously not the answer that you're looking for. What you want is to like release yourself of the reason that you think you need to be planning your food and stuff. And yeah, here's your homework. See what happens when you spontaneously eat. Like, let it get to lunchtime. Just like let yourself get to lunchtime and figure it out at that point.
And so for some practical tips, this can be committing to going out with a friend and ordering something that you would have never have ordered before and making no adjustments to that thing.
Oh yeah, no adjustments.
No adjustments. This can be letting your husband cook dinner and you just show up to eat, right? So these are all practical things, but I know that that's not going to meet the root cause, right? What you want is like to experience
but
rest.
it can help you get there.
Oh yeah.
Every time you do it, you realize it wasn't that bad and you gained something from it. You gained this freedom, this liberation, and it allows you to finally start seeing the sexy part of letting obsessive food planning go. And so
yeah, like let it go
where you're trying to go.
Or it could be, okay, I'm not going to bring any snacks with me, but when I'm hungry, or if it's been 3 hours, I'm going to commit to stopping somewhere and eating. And so if that means, and it may not be a balanced meal, but at this point, like it's orders of priority, right? You just need to eat. Like that's the priority right now. So what does it mean to, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to have a smoothie. I'm going to ask for protein powder in it. I'm going to ask for all the things in it. And I'm just going to have that. And I'm going to be okay. Yeah. Right. So I think that there is practical tips to doing that. This could be letting your friend order for you. This could be family dinners. Like you just show up to dinner and a family member's made it. So yeah. Very practical tips. And so we should do something about that, where it's absolutely practical takeaways, knowing that you're going to need both the mental and the practical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Well, this was fun. Thanks, Ash.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Come hang out with us. Ashley on Instagram, Ashley_Marie_Smith_. And I am
try being named Ashley Smith. See how that works.
Yeah. Good luck. All right. We'll see all you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women